In this video, I will show you the exact foods I eat on a daily basis to completely get rid of chronic back pain. Before we get started, do myself and yourself a favor and subscribe to this channel. You're gonna find that we publish a lot of videos on chronic back pain, and you're not gonna see this anywhere else because I discovered this through my own experience. I battled with back pain for more than 10 years, but the good news is I've been back pain free for 2 years. I know the way out, I know how to get you there, and subscribe to this channel, you will see what I'm talking about. Now, as you may already know, nutrition is actually really important for chronic back pain because of inflammation. Whenever your body is digesting and processing food, there are a lot of other byproducts of that whole metabolic activity, and that results in increased levels of inflammation. Now, some foods and some patterns of eating actually result in increased inflammation, and others result in lower inflammation. Obviously, the higher inflammation foods and ways of eating will increase your chronic back pain, while the lower ones will lower it. So in general, you will want to eat clean. You want to completely avoid junk food as much as possible. Processed foods, trans fats, all of that should go into the garbage. But even more importantly, and a lot of people don't know this, you should also try and get rid of carbs. When your body is digesting carbohydrates and sugars, it actually results in increased inflammation levels. They are really taxing for our gut to actually digest properly. And when we do that, when our stomachs actually try to digest carbohydrates, the result is increased inflammation. Some people may discover that they actually tolerate carbohydrates a little bit better, but if that's you, if you want to eat a diet that's higher in carbohydrates, in that case, I suggest lowering the fat content of your diet. So essentially, you want to choose one of these. Either you can eat like a higher fat diet and lower carb diet, which is what I definitely recommend. But if you eat higher carb, in that case, definitely reduce the fat intake of your food, because if you combine the both, like if you eat both high carb and high fat, that's gonna be really bad for your health in general. It's also gonna raise your inflammation, and there's gonna be a lot of other like heart issues and stuff like that you really don't want to add on top of your chronic back pain. Now, I will share my precise diet in a moment. I experimented a lot. That's how I arrived at this point and knowing exactly how to eat and what works for me. I also encourage people to do that as well. You can experiment and see which foods actually raise your energy levels and drop down your back pain levels. I also often struggled with a lot of weight loss. I often had some weight to lose. That's probably still gonna happen at some point in the future if you subscribe to this channel and if you watch me. Probably like a few years down the road, you're gonna see me gain a little bit of weight again. But the good news here is that I actually know how to bring it down. I actually know how to lose the weight really quickly and safely and efficiently. And the best piece of news is that what works for reducing chronic back pain usually is the same thing that also works for reducing your weight. So after a lot of testing and trying a lot of different things and actually noting the levels of pain I felt and the levels of energy before my meals and after my meals, I actually arrived at the following diet. I like to start with eggs in the morning. That's the basis of my breakfast. It's not even a breakfast, actually. I usually have my first meal and my first caloric input somewhere around noon, 12 p.m. And usually it's either 3 eggs if I'm kind of trying to slim down and cut down on calories, or 5 if I'm maybe trying to like build a little bit of muscle and hit the gym harder. Sometimes I may add a little bit of cheese in here, really like a small quantity of cheese, just to kind of get the flavor going. But lately I've been experimenting a lot with just boiled eggs and soft boiled eggs with a little bit of balsamic vinegar. It's just like add a little bit of salt on it. It's really a nice, simple, clean meal. It's completely natural. It has a lot of great micronutrients that your body craves, and it's also you can easily adjust the caloric needs. Like 3 eggs if you want to kind of like maybe maintain your weight or kind of like lose a little bit of weight. Maybe 5 if you want to like increase your caloric input. And the cheese is also like if in case you kind of want to add a little bit more calories into your diet. And also for breakfast, I sometimes add a little bit of vegetable. So typically this is just one piece of vegetable, usually a tomato, maybe sometimes a pepper, maybe a cucumber, a carrot or something like that. But in general, vegetables are essentially, I consider them to be free when it comes to nutrition. You can kind of have as much as you want, unless you struggle with one issue, and that may be like something along the lines of like an irritable bowel syndrome or some form of indigestion problem that is often triggered by some forms of vegetable. Not all of them, and you're gonna have to kind of discover this for yourself. definitely keep a journal and like get some notes on how you feel before the foods and after the foods you eat. See which foods kind of work for you. You may discover that some vegetables actually really upset your stomach. Maybe you suffer from IBS as well. And you're probably going to discover that IBS has a really strong relationship with chronic back pain. They are really like the root cause of those two problems. I think is really either similar or the same thing. And indigestion can really not just upset your IBS, but also cause an increase in chronic back pain. So depending on how well you tolerate vegetables, how well your digestion works, you can maybe have one or maybe even more in the morning. That's if you can actually tolerate. I think it's a good idea to kind of even fill up on vegetables early in the morning. Later in the day, when it's time for maybe like the second meal, I usually like to have some kefir or yogurt if I cannot get some kefir, and also some whatever nuts I can find. But typically, these are going to be like some mix of cashews, almonds, and hazelnuts. Occasionally, I may go for pistachios or walnuts or peanuts, whatever I can find. But typically, I just grab like 50 grams of cashews and 50 grams of hazelnuts. I do like a little nice mix. They're both roasted and salted. They're really delicious. And the kefir or the yogurt is, I typically have one glass or maybe two if if I'm kind of like hitting the gym harder. Again, the beautiful thing about this way of eating is that you can really easily adjust your caloric input. I usually have this meal around 3, maybe 4 p.m. And then around 6 p.m. I usually have some form of protein. This is usually like maybe 2 scoops of whey protein, maybe 3 or 4 if I'm really like trying to hit the gym hard. But I usually add a little bit of raw milk as well, some cinnamon, some raw cocoa powder. All of those things are really great, and really they add quite a lot of flavor to the whole like protein shake, because honestly, like just whey protein, it doesn't really taste all that great. This is completely optional. If you're not hitting the gym, I think you can safely skip this entire meal. And the last meal for the day, I usually have at 8 p.m. This is gonna involve a meat dish and some vegetable as well. I like to alternate the meats, so usually I have like maybe chicken or beef, but also I can sometimes have pork or turkey or even seafood if you have like access to fresh seafood. And the vegetable, again, like you can have as much vegetable as you want. I've found that like maybe 2 or 3 pieces of vegetable or maybe like 300 grams or even 500 grams of vegetable can work well in the evening. Again, like the dosages depend on what I'm trying to achieve. If I'm trying to stay leaner or lose some weight, I'm typically gonna have like somewhere around the 200 grams. I think that's like something like 7 or 8 ounces of whatever meat I'm having for the day. Again, like you can alternate, you can have chicken, beef, pork, turkey, seafood, whatever. 200 grams if I'm trying to lean down, and even up to like 400 or even 500 grams of meat if I'm trying to kind of like bulk up a little bit. The vegetable is, again, kind of free. You can have as many of them as you want, or as many of them as you can tolerate, actually. And if you're not trying to lose weight, optionally, you can add one piece of fruit in here. I've found it to be like kind of like a nice way to add a little bit of variety and taste and a little bit of sweetness. Well, one piece of fruit, or if like the pieces are small, like let's say, I don't know, like blueberries or strawberries, maybe like 100 grams or 4 ounces is a good dosage here. But in general, as you can see, this is a pretty low carb way of eating. The beautiful thing about this is that it's really natural and raw and clean way of eating. The foods get really delicious once you start like getting accustomed to them and learning how to kind of reset your taste buds and actually enjoy the foods that you're eating. And also you can easily adjust like the inputs. If you need more calories, if you maybe want to try to put on a little bit of muscle, you can easily like increase all of these dosages, the eggs, the meat, pretty much everything, even the whey protein. And if you're trying to slim down, you can easily reduce the intake. In general, if you're trying to cut down on the weight, just reduce the carbs as much as possible. You're gonna be pretty close to a keto diet. Maybe you're probably even gonna be in ketosis with this way of eating, and you're gonna find that the pounds are just like shedding off of you. You're melting like body fat like crazy. And once again, experiment with the vegetables and maybe even with the fruits a little bit, because they may cause you some problems with indigestion. And typically, very commonly, like this is the problem, if you have indigestion or IBS, these same people also struggle with chronic back pain a lot. So this may even be like one of the main culprits in your entire lifestyle. You may discover that maybe eating like cucumbers or tomatoes really upsets your stomach. It really causes you like IBS. And that also coincides with chronic back pain. You may even discover that like this one little vegetable that you thought of like some innocent little vegetable is actually like ruining your life and increasing your back pain. And as you maybe noticed, I eat in a kind of like a compressed feeding window. So I try to eat like the first meal around 12 p.m. and finish with eating around 8 p.m. This is an 8 hour eating window. And essentially, I'm practicing intermittent fasting, which I think is also a great thing to practice if you're struggling with chronic back pain. And by the way, the next video that's going to appear above me goes into a lot of detail on why fasting and intermittent fasting is also an excellent idea if you struggle with chronic back pain. Check it out. I will see you there. And until next time, be brave.